I would like to welcome everyone here today for what promises to be a special event to celebrate the life and honor a very special man, Michael Anthony Pettine. My name is Tim Donovan, and I am principal here at Central Bucks West. I graduated from West in 1986, playing 3 seasons for Coach Pettine. I was co-captain of the '85 squad. But I'm not here today in capacity as principal, but rather as one of Coach's former players to celebrate and pay tribute to one of the most influential people in my life. Let us begin with a prayer, and having that honor will be Russell Durbin, who has been Mike and Joyce's neighbor for over 20 years. We ask that everyone please stand and remain standing following the prayer for the national anthem.
Friends, we come together to praise God, to witness to our faith, and to celebrate the life of Mike Pettine. We come together in grief, acknowledging our human loss, but we also come together to share our memories of the many ways in which he touched our lives as husband, father, grandfather, brother, friend, teacher, mentor, competitor, and the coach. Perhaps 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 sums it up best for Mike. I have fought the good fight, finished the race, and kept the faith. His was a life well lived. Let us pray. Almighty God, we give you thanks for the blessing of this day. You, O God, who gave us birth, you know our needs before we ask. Give to us now your grace, that in grief we may find comfort, in sorrow, hope, and in death, resurrection. Speak to us once more your hopeful message of life, death, and life beyond death. Help us to live as one who is prepared to die, and enable us to die as one who goes forth to live, so that in living or dying, our life may be in you, and nothing can separate us from your great love. In Christ Jesus, amen.
Thank you, Russ. To perform the national anthem, I'd like to introduce Broadway actress and 1996 CBUS graduate, Jenny Lee Stern.
Hello, everyone. Welcome this afternoon. My name is Jenny Lee Stern. As Tim said, I graduated CB West in 1996. I had the thrill of being a member of the cheerleading squad during the meat of the glory of the CB West football program in the mid-'90s. I went on to become a Broadway veteran. Unfortunately, this Wednesday, I had throat surgery to remove what was an aggressive and large tumor from my throat. However, God put it on my heart this week and this morning to come here today and fulfill my commitment to Joyce and the family, and as well as to my school and my community. And I'm very honored to be here. One of the hardest things I think you learn in your old age is being able to ask for help. And today I ask for your help, as I'm not sure what will come out of my mouth today, but if we could all stand together and sing as loud as we can to glorify the nation, and hopefully so Coach can hear us up there wherever he is. I know for certain there's nothing in this world you can do completely alone. Even as a single mother, you cannot raise a child alone. You cannot make it to Broadway all alone. And you cannot win a state championship football game all alone, even if your name is Dave Armstrong. So I ask you now, if you are able, please lift your voices with me in the singing of our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Jenny. Fantastic job. Again, thank you to everyone for coming, especially those who have traveled great distances, which is not surprising and is only another testament to the impact Coach Pettine had on all of us. It is wonderful to see so many familiar faces from over the years. To those of you from the 60s and 70s who established a tradition of excellence, to those of you from the 80s and 90s who carried and built on the legacy, and to all who have and still do wear the black and gold, I say, welcome home. To the Pettine family, please accept my condolences and know that I am humbled and honored to participate in today's celebration. I know I can speak for all of us in saying thank you for sharing your husband, father, and grandfather for all of us. We were fortunate to be coached by him and mentored by him, blessed to call him a friend, and grateful that he made all of us better versions of ourselves. However, I do find it rather ironic that I am the MC for this celebration. The reason is, back in 1984, my junior year, I was a wingback and cornerback. All season long, though, I begged Coach to let me throw the halfback pass, because back in my Lenape Valley days, I was a quarterback. He put the plan and we practiced it during the season, and he always said, "Not bad, Donovan, stick to wingback." And then in the second half against East, on the biggest stage he called the play, we ran it, and the play worked, and I hit our tight end for a touchdown. I was elated that it worked, and the coach had the confidence in me to call the play. I was so excited, in fact, that I ran over to the sideline, hugged him so hard that my helmet hit his face and split his lip wide open. And I'm the guy emceeing this event. All joking aside, it is a privilege to be part of today's celebration. At this time, I'd like to call up Pennsylvania State Senator Chuck McElhenney, who has represented the 10th District since 2007, making a special presentation to their family, Senator McElhenney.
Thank you for inviting me to say a few words. Let me get that to work right. It is impossible to talk about Mike without considering the incredible legacy he has created through his dedication to the community. What is most remarkable is the number of lives he touched and how his influence inspired them to do great things. The accomplishments of his teams are remarkable in terms of games won, championships attained, but his incredible record of witnessing more than 90 football players earn scholarships is perhaps his greatest achievement. It is certainly the milestone for which he felt the greatest sense of pride and accomplishment. Every student he mentored, every player he coached, every young life he advanced are now part of his considerable legacy. It is a career and a legacy that will truly last forever. As we mourn his passing, we are mindful of the fact for everything that he represented to his students and his players, he was something even greater to those who were lucky enough to call him husband, a father, a grandfather, a family member, or a friend. While his inspiring presence will be sorely missed, we are uplifted by the fact that his life was well lived. I extend my deepest condolences to all those who loved him and knew him best. And on behalf of a grateful community, I thank you for sharing him with us and allowing him to follow his heart to make the world a better and brighter place. I brought with me a few citations that I'd like to present to the family at this point. First is from State Representative Marguerite Quinn on behalf of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. The next is from Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick from the United States House of Representatives. And the third one is from the Pennsylvania Senate that I'd like to read just a portion of, if I could. Whereas the Senate of Pennsylvania mourns the loss of Michael Anthony Pettine, and whereas Mr. Pettine represented many things to many people, among them a beloved family man, dedicated worker, an avowed community steward who gave his heart and time to enhance the quality of life of all his family and his community. His inspiring presence and genuine love for his family and friends will live long in the hearts and memories of the many individuals whose lives he touched. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Senate of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania note with great sadness the passing of Michael Anthony Pettine, whose life greatly benefited all those he lived, all those he touched, served, and worked with, and extend heartfelt condolences to the wife of 55 years, Joyce Miller Pettine, son Michael Jr., daughters Linda Lara and Sandra Rodinelli, 7 grandchildren, and many other family members and friends. I'd like to present this to the family. Thank you for letting me come to speak.
Thank you, Senator. Michael Anthony Pettine, born June 10th, 1940, in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, to parents Michael and Virginia Pettine. He would be the oldest of 3 Pettine children, big brother to sister Eileen and brother Carmen. It was clear from an early age that sports would be his passion, despite his lack of early success attempting to kick a football. Maybe this explains why he never liked kickers very much. He would grow up a 3-sport athlete at Conshohocken High School, graduating in 1958. It was there he would meet Joyce Miller, his high school sweetheart, who would later become his wife of 55 years. He would earn a full athletic scholarship to nearby Villanova University, never wanting to stray far from family, home-cooked meals, and a place where his laundry could get done. Mike was a 3-year letter winner at Villanova, playing both running back and defensive back. He liked to tell the story of scoring on a long touchdown run in front of the President, Dwight Eisenhower, in 1960 game against the Naval Academy. What he usually left out of the story, though, was they lost 41-7, and he scored on the last play of the game. Mike would graduate from Villanova in 1962 and accept a teaching and assistant coaching position at St. Pius X High School in Pottstown. Early in 1965, he would be offered a similar position at a small high school named Central Bucks in a faraway town called Doylestown. When he asked Pius head coach Jim Mitch, friend and mentor, whether he should take it, Mitch thought he should stay at Pius and take over for him in a few years. Luckily for all of us, he ignored that advice and took the job. For the record, Jim Mitch retired from coaching 20 years later and had the stadium at Pius named after him. The Pettines packed up and moved, excited about a $4,000 teaching salary and their new $14,000 house in the Maplewood subdivision in Doylestown. In addition to his job as a social studies teacher, Mike was an assistant on the football staff under Jim Maskus in 1965 and John Craxon in 66. What many of you don't know is that he was also the school's golf coach. Since most of the team had their own private coaches, his role was primarily as the van driver. He would later admit the real reason he coached golf was that he could hit free balls at the range with the team. He was named head football coach in 1967 and was fortunate enough to inherit a very talented quarterback named Doug Schobert, who would lead the Bucs to an undefeated season in the league championship. Doug was one of Coach's first players to get a scholarship. He would go on to star at Temple University and embark on a long coaching and teaching career in the Quakertown School District. Please join me in welcoming Central Bucs West Hall of Famer, class of 1968, Doug Schobert.
Thank you, Tim. I want to thank Michael, Mrs. Pettine, and all the family for this very special opportunity to share some thoughts today. It's such an honor. In 1966, I was a 15-year-old second-team quarterback for John Craxon's Central Bucs football team. Coach Craxon loved to run the football. I was no runner. John Chernikowski, my 7th grade baseball coach, who some of you may remember, used to say I ran to first base like I was pushing a wheelbarrow. Coach Craxon used to put me in when we were behind in the fourth quarter to try and pass our way to a win. Mostly I was unsuccessful. Against Penn Ridge late in the season, I threw 2 touchdown passes and we won. When I was back on the bench the next week, it was Coach Pettine, an assistant at the time, who was always in my ear, offering support, telling me not to quit, that my chance would come. Coach Craxon left and Michael A. Pettine became our head coach. I didn't quit, and I got to be quarterback on his first undefeated championship team. I'm so grateful that we got to spend some time with him last fall when Coach Pettine, his assistants, one of whom is Sid Huntsberger here today, and our team, many of whom are here today, were inducted into the Central Bucs Hall of Fame. But I have to say everything was different when he became a head coach. He was a really nice man before that. Sorry, Coach. To this day, I've never met anyone more competitive than Mike Pettine. It doesn't matter what the game is. As a young man, he used to play basketball with us at Linden Elementary School in the summer. Actually, it was more like he played against us. He was all elbows and sweat, and he usually won. It was a real shock when he became our head coach. Something changed in him. That nice, supportive assistant became, well, the Mike Pettine we all know and love. It was a common occurrence for us to win an away football game, come home, get off the bus, and run because we'd made so many mistakes. I remember thinking, Coach, we're 6-0. We must be doing something right. Our first scrimmage against Abingdon High School, I ran a sprint right. Eric Bass blocked the defensive end out. I ran out. Tackled for an 8-yard loss. As I tried to get up, I felt this looming presence. Coach wasn't a very large man, but he could really loom. I rolled over and there was this face up against my face mask. And then that voice, I can still hear it like it was yesterday. When Eric blocks out, you go in. I never made that mistake again. Not every player who committed to that 1967 football team started the season as a winner. We learned that from Coach Pettine. It was the combination of all the skills he taught us and that very special gift he had. A gift that made him different from any coach I played for or worked with before or after that year. He taught us how to expect to win. I was not a widely recruited player in high school. It was Coach Pettine who pushed and got me a scholarship to Temple. Coach Pettine taught me what work ethic really was. Taught me that quitting was not an option. That anything less than my best was not good enough. He was a great teacher. He always kept it simple, and no stone was ever left unturned. All those wins were no accident. He worked harder than anyone else. I got to coach a group of his players in an all-star game many years ago. They were players from all the different high schools in Bucks County. Each of the players from CB West was the best in his position. They had the best skills. They came to practice early. They listened when any coach spoke, and they stayed late. They were the leaders of that team. When I was about to become a head coach of a rival Bucksmont team, I asked Coach Pettine if he thought I could do the job, He said, "Do you love the game and hate to lose?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You'll be all right. Those are the only two important qualifications." That first year, I lost all my games except for the last one, Thanksgiving. After the season was Coach Pettine, who sat with me for hours, showing me exactly how he ran his team, from practice schedules to line blocking rules to team discipline. Coach Pettine was the person I went to when anything very good or very bad happened in my life. He had a hand in every success I had as a player and as a coach. The next year, there was a serious discipline incident with nearly all the seniors on my team. I really didn't know how to handle it. Again, I went to Coach Pettine. He said to me, "You have to suspend them for at least a game, even if they're your best players. If you don't, your team will fall apart. The right decision here will win you games down the road." I sat my seniors. We survived that week and won our next 8 games in a row. I want to thank Michael. Oh, she's on the wrong page. Oh, that was the beginning. Being a head high school coach is a really tough job. I remember asking him how he lasted so long. He said to me, "It was my family and roll aids." A few years ago at Lincoln Financial Field, Coach Pettine was there, sitting with my wife in the stands when I was honored by Temple University. He was still in my corner 50 years later. Thank you, Coach Pettine.
Coaching is teaching. And if you're not teaching kids really essentials of what parents want, most of the parents, let's face it, some few want their kids to come out and be football stars and get scholarships, but a lot of them are thinking, hey, this is good time spent for my kid to develop, a boy to become a man, learn teamwork, learn values of discipline, budgeting your time, and all the things that some administrators give lip service to, but coaches believe and parents believe that entrust their kids to us. And hopefully that's what we're doing, other than winning championships. Because in the final analysis, 20 years from now, I tell some of my kids, you're going to have a faded scrapbook. But then the most important thing is, what have you done with your life? And if you use these lessons that you're learning now and parlay those things into being successful in college and your approach in business, then that will be the lasting legacy of what you got from this program or in the athletic experience.
Doug mentioned Coach Huntsberger and the 67 team getting inducted. And at this time, I would like to wish Coach Sid a very happy 80th birthday. Happy birthday, Coach. Central Bucks High School was set to split into East and West in the fall of 1969, setting the stage for the intense rivalry that exists between the schools to this day. Caught in the middle of that split was a lanky senior wide receiver, Chuck Driesbach. Chuck would go on to attend Fort Union Military Academy and earn a football scholarship to Mike's alma mater, Villanova. He would then begin a coaching career that has spanned over 30 years, serving as a Division I defensive coordinator for over 20 and an NFL linebackers coach for 3 seasons. Please join me in welcoming Central Bucks West Hall of Famer, class of 1969, Chuck Driesbach.
How lucky were we all to grow up in this community. The support today for the Pettine family and the celebration of Mike is unbelievable. We all, in one way or another, were on his team. He touched us all, either as players, cheerleaders, teachers, just people that were fans of the West program. He always had a way in which to bring us together for a common cause, and today he has done that again. Today we come to celebrate his life. I've met so many people and seen guys that I haven't seen all the way back to the 70s. I haven't been back much. Was afraid I was still wanted in the area. Hopefully I can get out of town before they know I'm here. You're going to hear a lot of guys talk about the great success that Coach had on the football field, how tough he was, how disciplinarian he was, his attention to detail, how he prepared his teams and how he prepared us as young men. What I'd like to share with you is a three-part relationship that I had with Coach. My senior year was 1970, 69 season, and I'd finished playing for Coach when he probably did the best coaching job, in my opinion, that was ever done on a young man. It was the spring of 1970. He was 28 years old. I didn't have enough sense to come in out of the rain when I was 28. And this coach, in a time that was very trying for me, I was having some problems at home. I ran away from home. I actually lived in the press box for a week, and then some families took me in and gave me a place to stay. But the administration at that time set a meeting with me, and I went and told Coach, and he asked if he could be in there for support, and I told him he could. And when I went in, they basically said that if I didn't return home, that I would not be allowed to play baseball. And with all my wisdom, I said, that's great, I'll just drop out of school. And that's when Coach jumped in and said, hold on a second here. He said, this guy's been going to class, he comes to school every day. Why would we take that decision with this young man? And thankfully, they listened to what he had to say, and I was able to finish and graduate. He went on, helped me earn a scholarship to Villanova. If it was not for this intervention, I have no idea where I'd be today. But he was my coach. My next phase was he was my mentor. I coached in college for 37 years. There was very little I did that I didn't run by Coach. If I was making a job change, always called him, always bounced it off of him. Continually got phone calls from him recommending players from not only West, but other players in the area. It was always about the players. What could he do to help these young men? Lots of times I got calls from him recommending young coaches. Hey, here's a guy, Dries, that wants to get involved in coaching. Can you help him find a GA job somewhere? One of those calls, he wanted me to take a look at his son, Mike. He said he could promise two things. I was getting a very intelligent, hardworking young man who he felt like his contributions would be well worth us taking a look at him. And I was at the University of Pittsburgh, and I was smart enough to go ahead and hire Mike. He was with us for a couple of years there, and that's when I first got to know Mike. My next stage came as a friend when Mike became the defensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills. He called me and offered me a job, and I was ecstatic, but I got to reunite with Coach. Very few times that when he came into town, I didn't see him. He always came in for camps. I had most of my meals with him. We talked football. We played golf when we could. And it was just, he became a very, very good friend to me and to my family. The Pettines could be a little stubborn. Senior never thought that Mike appreciated him enough, and Junior never thought that his dad appreciated him enough. I was lucky enough to hear both sides. How proud he was of what Mike had accomplished. He would just tell me over and over again. And I would sit in on first defensive meetings in Buffalo and then team meetings in Cleveland, where Mike would stand up and talk about his dad and the principles of what his dad believed in and how it was a winning way and should be adhered to. He was my coach, he was my mentor, he was my friend, and I will miss him.
And you are looking in on Mike Pettine, one of the legendary coaches.
Yeah, you talk about Mike Pettine's career at Central Bucks West. He's in his 32nd year as head coach.
You're talking about a guy that's won 310 ball games in his career and lost only 42 and is looking for his third championship here in the 90s.
Those scenes are from a fabulous documentary called The Last Game about legendary Pennsylvania high school football coach Mike Pettine Sr. Pettine died last week at the age of 76. His record at my alma mater, Central Bucks West, was astounding. 326 wins, just 42 losses and 4 ties, 4 state championships across 33 seasons, producing many collegiate and even pro players before he retired in 1999. At one point in the 1980s, his teams had won 55 games in a row. Pettine's ability to mentor was underscored when his son, Mike Jr., was hired at age 47 to be head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Pettine Sr.'s true legacy is the effect that he had on the many young men that he coached, including yours truly. Let me give you the view from the bench. My name never rose higher than third string in the 2 years that I played for Coach Pettine. And if I had any doubt as to my standing, I was always able to consult the depth chart that hung in the locker room. Long before the age where everybody got a trophy, there was no ambiguity where you stood on a Pettine squad. Although I'd previously quarterbacked a championship team in junior high school, by the time that I got to high school, my better days were behind me. I don't know if a coach starting today could succeed in Coach Pettine's mold. He was not for the faint of heart. He was a drill sergeant, intense, vocal.
All right, this is it, baby. That's it, coach. It's my turn. I want to see your heads up. Why is anybody looking at the floor?
You're not going to be a good football team with this type of crap. Nobody looks down on us. All right, we'll respect them all the way till we kick their ass.
But the examples that he set for his players turn out to have affected me for the rest of my life. He valued the sort of thing that you see on those posters they sell in airline magazines. Hard work, commitment, organization, preparation, discipline. See, there was never any secret sauce in the CB West football dynasty. Pettine was an old-school practitioner of the fundamentals. He won by executing the basics. He was the Warren Buffett of high school football. And to the extent that I've had any modicum of success in my life, it has been by following the Pettine playbook. But don't take the word of this bench warmer. Consider the perspective of a superstar. There was no shame in my standing as the number 3, given who the number 1 was, Kevin Ward. Nationally, in the high school graduating class of 1979, there were 3 quarterbacks coveted by major colleges: Dan Marino, John Elway, and Kevin Ward. After being recruited by Notre Dame and Penn State, Ward chose the University of Arizona because he was able to play both football and baseball. He ended up concentrating on baseball. He led the Pac-10 in hitting in his junior year, then spent 8.5 years in the minor leagues, had to overcome 2 serious injuries before finally fulfilling his lifelong dream of playing Major League Baseball. And when he made it, as a San Diego Padre, you know who was there to watch him: Coach Pettine, who stood outside of a player's locker room underneath Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia just to tell Kevin Ward how proud he was. Ward told me the coach knew I'd never give up, and that was the part of him that was out there with me on that major league field. And Ward, having played sports from the sandlot to professional level, regards Mike Pettine as his greatest coach. Today, more than 3 decades later, I can picture him standing on the practice field behind CB West in his trademark baseball cap with wide frameless lenses, whistle around his neck, clipboard in his hand, yelling things like, "Get him out of here," or "Who can't go? Who can't go?" That he notched 326 wins is astounding, but his life shouldn't be reduced to even those impressive numbers. Instead, it will be perpetuated by the many young men that he coached. Still to come, your best and worst tweets, like this. Smirkanish, is there any chance of seeing you on the field again? Hey, Andre, I earned my letter in my junior year. You would think I'd be embarrassed to tell you this. By holding for extra points. Mark Amoroso was the kicker, Jeff Trauger was the snapper, and we all had a great unit. Thanks.
That is a great segment, and a special thanks to Michael Smerconish. Michael, who is here with us today. Thank you, Michael. Kevin Ward is scheduled to be our next speaker. Kevin is the Central Bucks West Hall of Famer, class of 1979. Unfortunately, Kevin is currently snowed in Zurich and could not attend today's ceremony. But he sent us his speech, and to read his speech is CB West graduate Jim Benstead. Jim?
I've only been up here 3 times before this auditorium, and with apologies to Dr. Spar, they all ended in his office. So we'll try to do better today, Dr. Spar. So I'm sure what you're thinking, if that's Kevin Ward, time has not been kind to him. Kevin was a 6'1" Leith world-class athlete. He could run faster than anybody, catch, hit anything. He was incredible with any ball in his hands. So obviously, when he could not come today, Mike Carey and Mike Jr. naturally wanted to find his double, his doppelganger, his athletic avatar. And when they couldn't find them, they grabbed somebody closest to the front row. So let that be a lesson to you kids about sitting in the front row. Kevin and I do share a bit of a past, though. Kevin did play for Coach Pettine in the late 70s, and so did I. Kevin did attend the University of Arizona in the early 80s on a scholarship, and so did I, albeit his was athletic and mine was academic. We're pretty much neck to neck like that. But in 1983, Kevin was named the Pac-10 Athlete of the Year. That's for outstanding football and baseball. And as they say, that's where the comparison ends. Kevin has been so kind to email this morning, which I just received his speech, and I'd like to read it to you. These are Kevin's words. First of all, I would like to offer my condolences to Joyce, Linda, Sandy, Mike, and all the extended family members of the Pettine family on the passing of Coach. He will be dearly missed by you all, and as you know, he will be missed by his extended CB West family that is sitting here today. I will try in this short time to say a few things about Coach Pettine, but it is hard to put into words to be able to properly convey and capture the impact Coach Pettine had on my life and the lives of many others who had the privilege of being one of his student athletes. First of all, you look at the things that he taught all of us. No matter who you were, from being number 1 on the depth chart to being a scout team member holding a blocking dummy, we can all say we were one as a team and had one sole purpose, and that was to compete and to win. Coach had the innate ability to motivate everyone on his team from top to bottom. He taught you how to dig down deeper and farther than anyone could ever believe they could push themselves. We all did, as you did not want to be the one to quit or to give in. You pushed on, and we all realized that, yes, Coach is right. We can be the best. We can dream big and reach our goals as a player and as a team. Failure was never an option. I would say to the 2 best attributes that Coach Pettine instilled in me, from my perspective, that I've used as a player, husband, father, coach, businessman, neighbor, and friend, were the 2 things. Number 1, he taught me how to compete, and number 2, what it was, he taught me toughness, both mental and physical. I can honestly say that Coach Pettine was the best coach that I ever had the privilege of playing for at any level. Not even close, not even a close second. I'm sure many of you are in agreement. I would have never been able to persevere the 8.5 years in the minor league baseball, overcoming 2 major injuries along the way to reach my lifelong goal and dream of being a Major League Baseball player. Anything I ever faced, every difficulty, adversity, as an athlete both on the field and off, I was prepared to face, as Coach Pettine taught all of us how to deal with such things and to never, ever give up. Expect great things to happen. Make them happen by outworking your opponent and relying on your team and your brothers around you to seize the day. This was the iron-willed mantra that he instilled in all of his pupils. It was our creed that we carried at West and onward into life. These were life lessons, not just about football, that Coach taught all of us. We did not realize it at the time, the impact that it would have going forward, that we all could draw from to reach our goals both on and off the field, as we were all too young to understand. Everything I ever faced on a baseball field after my time at West with Coach Pettine was easy, comparably, because he prepared us both mentally and physically to face anything, any situation. From summer two-a-days to in-season practice to our final game on Thanksgiving against East, we were always ready, always prepared. It was a very special, wonderful time in all of our lives. Then he goes on to relay a quick story that I think was covered by the video. And so in closing, he says, "May the good Lord give rest to the soul of our great mentor and friend, sincerely, Kevin Ward." Thank you for this opportunity and this honor. Thank you very much. And most importantly, thanks for all the notice on this, Mike. Appreciate it.
Just want to mention one nice thing about Coach Pettine. 33 years in high school football coaching at Central Bucks West up in Bucks County, my native Bucks County. Let me tell you this, folks. You know, I played a little bit, and I've been around some real motivators. I've been around some tremendous talent. And when it comes to mentoring and coaching and just eliciting the best, I mean, sending kids out that locker room door believing that this thing is owed to us because we worked the hardest. And we started not in August, but together without coaching guidance in other months. Nobody did it better. I don't even like having to say no one did it better. No one does it better than Coach Mike Pettine. And they did remarkable things on that field for 33 years. But off the field, and very much consistent with the observation I offered a moment ago, off the field, there are countless young men and families all across Pennsylvania and this great republic of ours that are grateful for his efforts and his guidance. And in my mind, while these athletes and what they do certainly should stand out, when it comes to coaching success and mentoring young people and creating that sense of hope and promise and the belief that I can do it, has been created in remarkable quantities on the part of Coach Mike Pettine.
One of the things that made Coach the proudest came long after the lights had faded. He took so much pleasure watching former players go from young, impressionable men to upstanding citizens, contributing to their communities in meaningful ways. One shining example is former West lineman and captain of the 79 squad, Jeff Trauger. A Brown University and Temple Law School graduate, Jeff Trauger became Judge Trauger in August of 2016 when he was appointed to the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas. In attendance for his confirmation hearing was an extremely proud Mike Pettine. Please join me in welcoming Central Bucks West class of 1980, the Honorable Judge Jeffrey Trauger.
Thank you, everyone. Let me tell you what it was like growing up in the early 70s, watching some of those teams. I was a boy at that time, probably 10, 11, 12 years old, and the place to be on a Friday night was in Doylestown to watch CB West. And I would be there. My father would usually take me, or my grandfather, and we'd go to those games, and we went to many of the away games. And there I heard the names of that famous West announcer calling out Driesbach, Jensen, Case, Carey. And as a young boy at that time, I dreamed that I would have the chance to play on that field, War Memorial Field. Well, that time came for me in the late 70s under the leadership of Coach Pettine. And under him, I learned a lot, as all of these gentlemen have, about teamwork, discipline, preparation, and respect. And one thing you know, if you played for Coach Pettine, he got the most out of each and every one of us. Many times more than we thought we had to give. He was that good of a coach. Collectively and individually, we would work harder and achieve more than we ever thought we could. I always had much respect for Coach, yet some of my relationship with Coach involved the fact that I had a tendency to question him at times, which I wanted to know why. Why should we do this? Why should we do that? Coach Carey's sitting there, he knows the way I was. I'll run through a brick wall for you, just tell me why. Why should I do that, Coach? So that was part of the personality that at times I would talk to Coach and we'd have a standoff, and it would be quite interesting. But I grew to respect the man. And off field, after those football years were gone, I thought back and learned more and reflected upon him as a man and as a person. And I'd like to share with you 3 short stories that give you an insight, hopefully, into the coach's personality and his character traits. The first one that always stood out to me, and I always busted his stones about it. Number 1, thrift and frugality. That was a man that never wasted money. And the story I recall is coming out of junior high school, Coach was way ahead of his time. So in the 70s, we had a year-round training program. So I was training as a sophomore and getting ready for all of the running conditioning and the weightlifting, and we were getting ready for the 77 season. And it was my recollection that right around that time was when the Pettines moved from the Maplewood section to the big house in the new development on the better side of Doylestown. Now, I worked and I got paid. I had jobs in addition to playing for CB West. But Pettine comes to me one day and he says, Trauger, he goes, you and these 6 or 7 other sophomores, he goes, you're going to help me move on Saturday. So I said, Coach, are you going to pay us? And he thought about it. He goes, I'll buy you lunch. So he said, consider it part of your training program, weightlifting. So Coach Pettine rented a U-Haul, and a group of us helped move the Pettine family from Maplewood over to the nice new house in the Pine Run Road on that side of town. Second story I'd like to share with you is about Coach's intensity and competitiveness. The clips are great when you can see his eyes. I love all these pictures that show such a friendly, warm, welcoming man. But many of us got that eagle-eye stare that felt like it was going through to the back of your head at times. And I'm going to share one of those instances for me. I grew up in Plumstead, which is 5 miles north of Doylestown. I came to believe that Coach Pettine had never been to Plumstead, even though we were in the school district. I think he thought that I was a farm boy. And in one particular exchange we had, and it was in the off season, whatever I said set him off. And he, being the intense person that he was, said to me, he said, "Trauger, if you can't take the heat, go back to the farm." Now, I was pretty upset about that. And I haven't shared this with many people, but for a week or so, I quit CB West football. I said to my parents, I said, "That's it, I can't take it, I'm not dealing with him." And they said, "Calm down, wait." So I think for a week or so, I didn't participate in the off-season training program, etc. And I came back, and we reconciled and moved on from there. Last thing about his character traits I think is very important is loyalty. He was loyal to his players, beyond comparison. For those that are out there, I want to tell you that on CB West football, nobody got cut. Your talent had no means in determining whether you were going to be on that team and dress on a Friday night and walk out onto War Memorial Field. You just had to be part of the team, do the work, and be there. And for many players, you would have the opportunity to play for CB West on that field, whether it was a sophomore game or a JV game or what have you. So although he had produced a lot of players that went on to college and had scholarships, there's so many more that were there that he stood by and was loyal to. Guys that wanted to get into a Division III school or a community college type program, he helped those guys too, as much. Another example of his loyalty was the 1977 season. We had worked hard, the off-season year-round training program with weightlifting and everything, and as the season approached, there was a teacher strike. Coach crossed the picket line to coach us, and I know he took a lot of grief for it. But I can't tell you how important that was to the guys that had put in all the effort and time, and I believe that he told us that we were his priority, even over the teachers' union and the position at that time. But his loyalty in that regard was just amazing. As the years went by, I reflected upon similarities with Coach, and I drew a parallel between him and another great Italian-American coach. I used to always tease him about being Italian and say he was from Philly. He goes, "No, I'm from Conshohocken." Well, the Conshohocken Comet. Many of you should remember that that was his nickname as he played at Conshohocken. But he had, I believe, if you look at the time frame, the 60s, late 60s and early 70s, I believe that he had an affinity and learned his craft through the model of the time, which was Vince Lombardi for the Green Bay Packers. Both of them taught the importance of hard work, discipline, attention to detail, and were extremely demanding of all of their players and everybody that was associated with their program. I'd like to share a quote from Vince Lombardi that I believe summarizes the experience of what it was like to play for Coach Pettine. Vince Lombardi would tell his players, "Gentlemen, we will chase perfection, and we will chase it relentlessly, knowing all the while we can never attain it. But along the way, we shall catch excellence." You heard the stories about knowing you made a mistake and it was going to be on a film and it would come up, and the attention to detail. That's what the CB West program was all about. And I'd like to say, on behalf of all the fellow football players that are here today, I'd like to tell you all that, gentlemen, we caught excellence under Coach Pettine. I'd like to thank the entire Pettine family for the honor to speak here on his behalf and on behalf of the man that other than my father and my grandfathers, had the most impact on my life. Thank you.
Again, I don't like to get into cliches, and I haven't used too many of them, but, Lombardi, the harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. I mean, in the off season, during the season, there aren't too many teams in the country that work harder than our kids. I think not resting on your laurels. We did not allow our kids. You realize that every Monday night when they left film, it's like they felt they lost the game, some of them.
Now, you're pretty cocky when you make comments when you're watching film. We're going to see if you're as cocky after the game. People say, why are you successful? That's another thing I would tell them if I had time. We don't assume. We got a 50-50 chance the way I look at it every time to go out and lose.
Life is not easy. It's a competitive world, and we run a competitive program. And if they can get through CB West football, and if they can learn how to be successful on a consistent basis, and learn how to do the little things and to budget their time, and learn how to be mentally tough, and learn how to take the pressure of a carry. I always kid, hey, you're used to carrying, and myself, any boss you have after that, got to be easy. But once you develop that physical and mental toughness, we put pressure on them as coaches. We run in very intense practices. I don't think you're going to find too many practices more intense. So actually, the game may be a step down from what these guys have been through the week. And I think that's been a big help to us.
So our next speaker doesn't need much of an introduction because everybody knows him. He was a standout lineman for the Bucks in the mid-'80s, and while Billy Kilkenny and I were co-captains of the '85 team, Dick Beck was the undisputed leader of the squad. Plus, he was the only player during my time that could leave Coach speechless with his one-liner comebacks. He went on to have a standout playing career at Temple and is now one of the premier high school coaches in the state at North Penn. In the last 15 years, Dick's teams have won 167 games, winning the district title 7 times, making it to the state finals twice, and winning it all in 2003. Central Bucks West Hall of Famer, class of 1986, Dick Beck.
Thanks for the kind words, Tim. I remember being inducted into the Apple Club in August of 1983. The Apple Club was for the players fortunate enough not to pass the conditioning test the first day of practice. It was a support group that Coach Pettine ran. And he held meetings before every practice at 7 o'clock in the morning on the first week of practice and had us run 4 laps around the field as, to help us through the rest of the week. I was lucky enough to be in the Apple Club for all 3 years at CB West. So you say, why did he call it the Apple Club? Okay, well, he had a picture outside of his office, and it was a picture of a pig, and it had an apple in his mouth. And underneath the picture, it had all the names of the guys in the Apple Club. So after weightlifting during the off season, we would come up and play basketball in the gyms, and if you were lucky enough, Coach would join us and we'd play against them. And as was said before, everybody wanted to compete against them. I think I wanted to give him a little shot every once in a while. So he had this move. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has the sky hook. Well, Coach had this move where he would give you kind of the ball fake, and he would go underneath your arm. And as he went underneath your arm, he would smack his own forearm. Now, if he missed the shot, he'd call foul. And if he made the shot, he'd give you N1, baby. I never knew Coach had a sense of humor until our senior year. Billy Kilkenny was a Maxwell Award winner, and it was a little bit different back then than it is today, but they would give them out weekly. So he had Mike Radigan, Tim Donovan, and I drive down with him to the Union Club down in the city, and they present Billy with the award. It was a real nice thing. We got to get out of school. We had to wear suits. So we drove down, me, Mike, and Tim drove down with Coach Pettine. Now, Coach drove a Ford Escort station wagon. No air conditioning. We were in suits. You know, it was like September. We were hot. So, you know, he goes down the city. Now, I'd never gone down the city with him, and he took, I think, the longest way I've ever been. He drove down 611, and we got to Broad Street, and we went right down to Broad Street to Center City. And when we got on the Broad Street, I noticed we were in the back seat, and he stopped at every light, whether it was red or green. So he did it maybe like 2 or 3 times, and I'm looking at Tim like, Tim, does he see the light's green? So finally, I just get the guts up enough and say, Coach, you know the light's green, right? He goes, can't trust those city drivers, baby. See, the word baby was like, that was how he put an exclamation point at the end of any statement or sentence that he really wanted to emphasize. So we get down to the Union Club, and, you know, he presents Billy with he gets up to speak. It was Villanova Day. Oh, I mean, you want to talk, he was shaking hands and kissing babies. It was amazing. So he gets up there and he starts talking about Billy Kilkenny. Yeah, he's looking to go to Ivy League, probably go to Princeton. He's a 3-year starter. And then he starts talking about the players he brought. I brought 3 players with me. You know, Timmy Donovan is over there. He's a running back for us. He's a National Honor Society, top 10 in the class. You got Mike Radigan. He's a national recruit, one of the top recruits in the nation. Offensive line, got 50 scholarships. You know, could go to Penn State, Ohio State. And I couldn't wait for him to get to me. I couldn't even imagine what he was going to say. So he says, and then we got Dick back. And he's a sandblaster. And I was like, all right, what's a sandblaster? I didn't know what a sandblaster was. I never heard of it, so I'm like, that must be some like big truck or something. I don't know. But fortunate enough, he gave his description of what a sandblaster is. See, to him, a sandblaster, and I got to read this because I wrote it down so I didn't mess it up. It's a person whose legs are so short when they stand on the beach and fart, sand blows up. So, okay. All right. See, I told that story at my Hall of Fame induction, and he says afterwards at the NBI, did I really say that? Yeah, of course. So I get out of college, and I get offered an opportunity to coach here at West, and that was, just an amazing experience. I was very excited. And when I got at West, I'm Mike Carey's guy. I'm coaching the offensive line with Mike, coaching centers, I'm coaching the D-line. And as anybody that's seen the last game, Mike and Mike Carey and Senior at times may have disagreed over things. Now, look, my job was I agreed with whatever Mike Carey said, okay? Because, first of all, I drove with him to the games and back, and I figured if I agreed with him enough, I would finally get a free beer at the NBI. So, state championship game, it's Thursday before the game. And I get there, and now Sid's outside of the office, and he's rubbing dried milk on the footballs. He thought it took the tack, it made it more tacky, and so he did that before every game. I never understood that, but so I would go in, and it's just me and Pettine. So he says to me, "Don't you think if we win the coin toss, we should take the ball? We want to get on offense right away and get the lead and make them play from behind." And I looked at him like, "What's he asking me for? I am just the first-year coach." So I said, "Yeah, you're right, Coach." Yeah, I was just agreeing with him because he had never asked me any kind of strategy like that before. So I was a little confused, I have to admit. So Mike Carey comes in. So he says to Mike Carey, "I think we're going to, if we win the toss, we're going to elect to take the ball." And Mike Carey looks at me and goes, "Mike, we talked about this last night. I told you, I think we should defer. That's the best thing." And then it hits me. He set me up. Because this is the next words out of his mouth. "Well, Dick agrees with me." And Mike looks at me like, like Caesar looked at Brutus, like, "Are you kidding me?" Oh. So I remember, as you listen to the speeches, and I like that last clip before I came because, the one thing a coach did that better than anybody else was he really put pressure on the kids when it didn't matter if they failed or not. When we were in practice, how many times you see he would be behind the guys he's hitting the tackle on sled, and he'd be calling out the other team's best player. You're not going to hit the guy like that. And he continued to do it. And if the guy turned around and complained, he'd go, "Oh, there you go, act like a baby. Yeah, sure." And the kids were so used to learning under pressure that in the most important parts of the game, the West kids always played their best because the pressure didn't bother them because they were used to the pressure. So in the state championship locker room before the first, now, everybody understands that none of us got to play in the state championship game before 91. It was only, the playoffs were only existed for 3 years, and West didn't make it the first 3 years, and this is the first year. So, we go in the locker room, and the music's playing. Now, the psych tape, I still can't believe that's what he played, but like Whip It and China Grove, and, it was like, it was weird stuff, but I guess that's, and guys used to click their cleats on the thing to the beat of the music. And when he walked in, anytime, as soon as Rocky theme came on, he'd turn it off! I don't know, I guess he had some fear about the Rocky song, I wasn't sure. But what he did in that locker room was he put the ultimate pressure on that team because he said that it was their responsibility to carry the torch for all the guys that didn't have a chance to play. They didn't have a chance to play in that state championship game. All the guys that came before them, that they would have given anything to play in the state championship game. Undefeated seasons, mythical state championship, national rankings, and guys in Pittsburgh still think that they invented football. So he put it on them that it was their turn to show the rest of the state of Pennsylvania what CB West football was all about. And that's like the ultimate pressure. And the kids responded, and obviously it was a great victory, first state championship. And I'm not really sure at the end of the game what kind of happened because I bet you he hugged Mike Carey first. And I know that Junior was crying, okay? But the thing that was vivid, that I really remember is as we walked, as we get done with the handshakes, I can specifically remember him hugging Mrs. Pettine. And when I talk about a hug, I mean picking her up, and they were, woo! I can just vividly remember. And we're in the same business as I started to become a head coach. We talked about it. He was very clear how lucky he was to have somebody like Mrs. Pettine who was so supportive of everything that he did. And I know that probably wasn't easy for her, but she was not only so supportive of him, she was the CB West biggest fan. So, when he told me that, as he's talking to me as we're playing golf, I always get that image in my head. Now, the funny part about the state championship, which probably nobody knows, is we get on the bus and they drive 4 hours home, Willow Grove exit, they have a police escort. You get back, there's fire engines, there's 5,000 people in the parking lot cheering it on. And panic set off in the bus that Pettine was in. You see, he thought they left this championship trophy back in Altoona. So when you see, like, the picture of him in the paper the next day was him holding his clipboard above his head instead of the trophy as he's walking off the bus. So, well, what happened was, and this is absolutely a true story, Sid took the trophy home. Now, Corey Nolan says he took it home to put dried milk all over it. Okay, so I loved playing golf with Coach Pettine. And I always said I would rather win $5 from Coach Pettine than $1,000 from anybody else because he hated losing. And unfortunately, he beat me a lot. The worst thing about losing to them was the eventual phone call that I would get from Junior. You know, Junior would call me, yo, why's my dad calling me saying, Beck's a little lighter in the wallet today, baby? I literally could set my watch to it, you know. And I had a great opportunity last year to play. It was me, Jim Radigan, not Mike, he's terrible at golf. Me, Jim Radigan, Tim Donovan, and Coach got to play last summer. And afterwards, you know, we were drinking a couple adult beverages in the clubhouse, and I'll never forget this. He just looked at us, he goes, you know, I've never told anybody this ever. He said the 1985 team was the greatest team I ever coached.
I got to follow that? All right, so and that guy's been my best friend for 30 years. So if I may, I'd like to share a few of my memories of Coach. And the picture you see up there is back in the day, the player of the game from East and West, you won the Moose Award, and the local Moose Lodge would host a lunch for each player. And so that's a picture of Coach and I my senior year, which I won the Moose Award for our very first game my senior year against William Tennant, which again is another ironic story. So the 85 season, the campaign got off to a horrible start because of me. I was the guy who messed up the coin toss at our opening game. On the way out to the coin toss, Billy Kilkenny asked me, said, hey, Tim, do you want to talk? I said, sure. Now, back then, Dick just told you about the debate, take the ball, kick off, defer, whatever. So that season, Coach always liked his defense on the field first. Now, we all know that there's three choices when you win the coin toss. You can elect to receive, you can choose to kick off, or you can defer. It's defer that I didn't understand as a 17-year-old. Because, see, I thought that if you kicked off to begin the game, you automatically received in the second half. Wrong. So we win a toss. And the ref says, what do you want to do, West? I said, we want to kick off. He says, West. And then it starts. We're at midfield, and I hear in that booming voice, what did you say? What did you say? All first half, that's all I heard. It was really hot. I remember it was one of those late summer nights, and it was hot and humid. Guys are tapping out left and right. I played every snap. I didn't go anywhere near the sideline. So there's under a minute to go in the first half. We have the ball deep in Tennant territory. We're driving for a score. Meanwhile, we're killing Tennant. We're pitching a shutout. And Coach takes a timeout. Now, we all remember that walk. You know, the slow, purposeful walk when he's heading straight for you. It seemed like forever as he reaches the huddle. What did you say? And then at that moment, Billy, who was our fullback and stood next to me in the huddle, says, I got this. Coach reaches the huddle, and one last time, what did you say? Billy stands up and he says, Coach, he said we want to kick ass. Coach stopped, grinned, called the next few plays to run before the half. He never brought it up again, and I certainly never did, and I can tell you this, I never spoke again in a coin toss the rest of my career. In 1983, I was a sophomore, which was Michael's senior season, not to stir up bad memories, but the Thanksgiving Day game that year did not fall in our favor. So in 84, we're 9-0 and getting ready to play East down at Del Val. It's a beautiful day, and the place is packed. We're in the locker room before the game getting ready for Coach's pregame talk, and as we know, Coach's pregame speeches were beyond motivating. We're all down on one knee, and Coach begins. I got a call last night from last year's quarterback, he said. Dad, don't let what happened to me happen to these guys. Then his voice cracked. When I say you could have heard a pin drop. Coach quickly gathers himself and says, all coaches out, seniors, locker room is yours. I don't remember running out of the locker room that day. I think the entire team floated out. Poor East never had a chance, and we won 28-0, went 10-0, and finished number 1 in the state. The last time I spoke with Coach was this past fall at the Hall of Fame banquet. He was very proud the 67 team was inducted. When the event was over, I went to say goodbye, and he held my hand a little longer than normal, and then there was that pause. You know the pause that Coach took before phrases or words. He said, Timmy, congratulations again on becoming principal. I'm proud of you. Then he quickly changes his topic and says, did you see that somebody put the 85 East-West game on YouTube? I said, I did. Then he says, remember your run? I'm immediately transported back to 85. We're playing East in a quagmire. The game was actually pushed back 2 days because of the rain. It rained all week. It never stopped even during the game. We would go on to win 6-0, go 11-0, and be ranked number 1 in the state. The run, it was called 45 Quick Buck, and that was to cut off a pulling block of Dick Beck. Well, on this day, the play worked to perfection. Dick pulled and absolutely depleted the D end. I made a couple of cuts and scored in a 39-yard run. As I'm writing this, I found it very strange how you remember details so vividly, but I believe that when something means so much to you, you remember it so well. Anyway, back to Coach saying, remember your run. I anticipated him bringing up Dick's block because it was that good. I was wrong. He says, the reason you scored was because Westcott busted his butt to get downfield and block the free safety. He was right. Chris Westcott was the backside end, and Coach always preached that backside players had to seal off and get downfield and block. And then with a huge smile, Coach slowly walked away and said, downfield blocking, baby. One last life lesson that Coach departed. When everyone's eyes are on the guy crossing the goal line, the player in the corner of the film frame, busting his tail and doing his job is just as important. Last year I watched the ESPN 30 for 30 special on the 85 Bears, and after watching it, felt compelled to write letters to Coach Carey and Coach Pettine, thanking them for all they did for me. And I'd like to close my remarks by sharing part of what I wrote to Coach. Not many people get to experience what I did and my teammates did in high school or any other time in our lives. Winning championships was great, but more importantly, you tapped into something in me that I didn't know existed. People talk about reaching one's potential, and you helped me come as close as I ever have to reaching that. Lombardi said that perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. Jeff Trarg already referenced that. I think that's an accurate description of our teams. To be part of something truly special, something bigger than oneself, I have come to learn, is truly unique and so difficult to achieve. And so I want to reach out to say thank you. Thank you for being tough on me, pushing me beyond my limits, and teaching me what it really means to be part of something special and to reach excellence. Thank you, Coach.
back over here, look for the signals, and then we're going to start kicking butt.
What did I tell this bozo? Get on the tackle! Head up on the tackle, right here.
Wide stack right, 31 slam. Hurry up, hurry up. Let's go special left.
Special left.
37 pitch on set. Tell him to get his shoulders upfield. Wing right fly, running back pass left. Get off the field! Straight set up. 35 slam. Go with the wing left line, sprinter and draw. I went straight set up, jet left, 37 pitch. Hey, what are you making a fake? Don't you like that call?
How about post against that umbrella?
Why did he blow by you? He was behind you. Explain.
Why was he outside?
He doesn't know. He's in space. Yeah, you're in a football game. Let's see what you're made of. Let's go. Cut it off! Will you make a cut? That was 6 points, 3 different ways. Yeah, make a cut. He runs a 5.140 and he beats you down the field because you just don't want it. What are you doing with a hand warmer on? I don't want you wearing any hand warmer. The D lineman doesn't wear a hand warmer. Don't even start to make a case for not going left. They had 5 guys lined up. Count them. There's another cover with the genius here. What kind of move was that? What was that? Don't even say anything. Do the technique or get off the damn field. You understand me? Good read, but you got to run faster. You look like somebody just threw concrete all over you and it's drying fast. We're going to see if there's any difference or if it's the same team that stunk the joint out the first half. Oh, I hear that every week. Whoever taught you to get on the side? You never get on the side. Every week you do it. You are 8 yards! 8 yards behind the fullback! If you peek when that guy's coming, you're in trouble. Just shut your mouth. The Giacomo be in before you just shut up.
Could have been on me.
That's the penalty's on you. Okay. One more word and you're out. What's wrong?
You look like there's something wrong.
There is something wrong.
What's that?
Just try coaching these guys.
That was a special memory for the players. Some of Coach's unique expressions. The success of the CB West program had through the 1980s was unparalleled, establishing a state record 53-game winning streak from 84 through 88. With the introduction of the state playoff system in 1988, some people wondered what level of success the program would have moving forward. Were Pettine's Bucks merely a regional phenomenon, or could they compete on a statewide level? The 78, 80, 84, and 85 teams were named mythical state champs, but never got the chance to prove it on the field. In the decade of the 1990s, we got a resounding answer. The Bucks won an amazing 121 games while losing only 8. On the field, they earned their first state championship in 1991. They reached the state final again in 93. In 1996, Coach Pettine would retire from teaching social studies in his famed Room 33. He would proceed to close out his coaching career going 45-0 with 3 straight state championships. And he would announce his retirement following the 99 season. Now, how is that for a walk-off? A huge part of the program's success was due to the play and leadership of our next 2 speakers. Corey Potter is a perfect example of the selfless mentality required to succeed on a Pettine coach team. As he converted to quarterback before his senior season, he grew into the position and flourished, leading the Bucks to win over Upper St. Clair in the state title game, capping off a perfect season. Potter would go on to have a standout defensive career at the University of Massachusetts, playing linebacker, and was ultimately elected captain his senior year. Please join me in welcoming Central Bucks West, class of 1998, Corey Potter.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with all of you today to celebrate an absolutely incredible man. I'd like to thank Mrs. Pettine and the entire Pettine family for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. I look around and I see a lot of familiar faces, guys I grew up idolizing, coming to West games with my dad as a little boy, guys I played with, starting back in Lenape Valley all the way up and through West, and guys I watched play with my younger brother. What I see before me today is a group of men that took the lessons instilled in us by Coach Pettine and went on to become great men themselves. Knowing Coach, he'd be the first to downplay his role and insist that our parents were more to thank than he ever was. But my parents could only get me to do so much, and I knew they'd never hit me. But with Coach, I was never too sure. He left just enough doubt in my mind to put the absolute fear of God in me. 326 wins is impressive. It's even more impressive when I think of the year that I put him through as a sophomore. I made mistake after mistake after mistake, to the point where I thought Coach was either going to kill me on the practice field or end up in the insane asylum. I had never seen someone's face turn so many different shades of red. Like all of you, I was terrified of Coach Pettine when I first met him. As a 15-year-old, I could hardly look him in the eye, let alone ever imagine that he'd be one of my golfing buddies all these years later. But that was the beauty of Coach. You came into the program not knowing your ass from your elbow, and you left ready to take on the world. Like a sculptor turns a lump of clay into a work of art, Coach took each and every one of us and slowly molded us into men through his efforts. Now I realize thinking of somebody like Coach in the same context as Michelangelo might be a stretch. But the impact that he had on kids and his ability to connect with teenagers really was an art form unto itself. The full measure of his impact can be seen here today. We're here by the thousands. Some of us waited in line, some of us traveled thousands of miles to be here. Crowds like this don't just show up for anybody. If you talk to any former West player, you're likely to hear that when they were here, they had it the worst. He was the craziest, his practices were the roughest, the hardest, so on and so forth. And that by the 80s or 90s, he'd gotten soft. And that we had it easy. And that debate will go on forever. But I was a senior on the team the first year he retired from teaching. And I remember the upperclassmen, guys like O'Neill, Cliggett, and Picciotti, teasing us about how much rougher we were going to have it now that he had all this free time. Truth be told, he did come up with a few new wrinkles. But what a lot of people don't know is he actually picked up a new hobby. It was the springtime, and off-season conditioning was in full swing. We're down in the weight room working out. I stepped out to get a drink. Sure enough, Pettine's right there. Potter, come into my office. My mind starts racing. I'm thinking back over the course of the day. What did I do? Who did I make mad? Did I skip a class? Things are flying through my head. We get to his office. Excuse me. He tells me he needs 6 strong guys to come to his house to move something heavy after workouts. So I'm thinking, great. This is, no problem. I'm not in any trouble. So I round up Armstrong, Buckley, myself, Matt Velitis, Nick Crognale, and Joel Starsman. Tell them we're going over to Coach's house. We're going to move something, and that's that. We head over after practice. He's waiting for us in the driveway. He's grinning from ear to ear. None of us still have any idea what we're there for. He tells us it won't take long, and he ducks inside. A couple minutes goes by, and still no sign of Coach. My mind starts, racing again. Maybe we're not here to move anything at all. Maybe we're actually here to run plays or bellies or God knows what. And then right at that moment, where everybody's still wondering what's going on, the garage door slowly starts to lift up. Sure enough, there is an enormous dollhouse that Coach had built by hand for his granddaughter. It's completely silent. 6 of us all kind of stand around looking at each other like, is this really happening? Honestly, I was waiting for somebody to pop out of the bushes. I thought for sure we were on some hidden camera show. My brain couldn't comprehend that Coach Pettine, this fire-breathing dragon who scared the hell out of all of us, actually had this softer side. For me, it was as if I had seen Bigfoot in the wild. And that's when it hit me, that he was a real person. He wasn't some football robot. He had feelings and a family and grandkids that he loved more than anything in the world. He had a gigantic heart, full of love. And while he may not have always expressed his love verbally or been a little rough around the edges, he cared. He cared more than any of us ever knew. He'll be remembered for a lot of things: the wins, the championships, the streaks, his classic one-liners. But his greatest accomplishment was his dedication to us, the thousands upon thousands of hours he spent developing young men and preparing them for life. Football was his tool, but the lessons he passed on were bigger than football. No town on earth or group of young men have ever been luckier than us to have had him in our lives. It was an absolute privilege. Coach, I know you're here with us today. For myself and the entire CB West family, we love you, we miss you, and we thank you for everything you did for us.
Hey, and any program that we run, the way we test kids, the way we put pressure on them, just about every kid in our program has had, a crossroads one-on-one situation with us, where they don't see eye to eye, they don't know if they want to continue in the program. And, if it were so easy, then we wouldn't be where we are. It's like the Marine, slogan. They want a few good men. And it's not for everybody because it's so tough. And if you take a look at to be a Marine or to do the things to make a Navy SEAL, hey, you can't be a nice guy. Football is a tough game.
Another player that embodies CB West football is Brian Buckley, a senior captain on the 1998 state title team. His leadership was instrumental in guiding the Bucks to their second straight Quad A championship. He too would end up as part of the UMass football team, but was drawn away by a higher calling after 9/11, joining the Marines and the Marine Corps Special Operations Command and serving as platoon commander on multiple deployments in the Middle East, a story well chronicled in the book Fading Echoes. Central Bucks West class of 1999, Brian Buckley.
All right. Mike Pettine. I called you Coach, you called me Birdhead. King Kong, Buckley Brain, and of course your old go-to, Buck, you're so full of crap. Your eyes should not be blue, they should be brown. I was deployed to Iraq one year, and I was on a mission in the heart of the rain season. Our mission was to locate some enemy personnel, so we had to go dig a hole in the side of a hill, in which all the rain started to fill it up. And we had to remain there silent and still. It was finally my turn to get some rest. So I rolled over, started to go to sleep, had my weapon across my chest, my hand was kind of hanging out a little, some sand that was muddy. And all of a sudden I was transported back to CB West, football practice field. It was August camp. The morning dew was on the grass. My feet were getting wet. Coach Carey had plastic bags covering his shoes. And no doubt, the hottest pair of Zubas this side of the Mississippi. He goes after me, so I'm sure he has a couple shots for me after that. All right. Coach Pettine has already given me an earful for my poor play during the previous day. I'm thinking, great, he's already all over me. We haven't even started our first practice, and I still have another one after this. It was at that moment I awoke.
feel my weapon across my chest, the sand on my hand, and I start to look around, and I think to myself, thank God I'm in Iraq. Hey, war's bad, but I mean, those football camps, talk about post-traumatic stress. All right, hey, it's tremendous to see everyone here and be around the CBS football family again. You know, I was just out there talking to Ryan Pettine, who I haven't seen in years. It's pretty cool. He's taller than me, so that's fun. But people always ask me about all the greats at West. You know, the Blungrams, the Armstrongs, the Pachottis, and they want to know who probably was the most valuable players. Well, today I'm going to make a pitch for who I thought were the MVPs, and that was the Pettine grandchildren. August 1996, the grandchildren utilized creative energy and intellectual curiosity to construct a fort/obstacle course with the team's blocking pads. To ensure that the project was safe, there was one man, and one man alone, who made the perfect test dummy, and that man was Coach Mike Pettine. At first he showed his apprehension, but through their relentless persistence, the grandchildren had him execute his demonstration. He flipped his whistle behind his back, starts low crawling through this obstacle course, and all you hear is, okay, I'm having fun, this is fun. All the players are sitting around watching Coach Pettine go through his fun park, try not to laugh. He quickly recognized this, called for individual drills, and proceeded to impose his will on all of us so he could reassert his alpha status. In July 1998, at the conclusion of a passing league game against North Penn, I can't recall who the head coach was then. I think it was Pettine or Pettine, some other gentleman over there. But nonetheless, Coach was none too pleased with our effort. He walked with a purpose over to us, and his face displayed a look that things were about to get a lot worse before they were going to get better. Displaying uncanny bravery and intestinal fortitude, the grandchildren, with complete disregard for their own safety, stopped Coach in his tracks and demand hugs. He told them no, but their indomitable fighting spirit would not go quietly into the night, and they kept pressing him to hug him. So Coach picked them up, hugged them. He told all of us to go away, and that we found his weakness. Ladies and gentlemen, the threat was neutralized. You know, when you first start playing here at West, and you come up here as a sophomore, you're just scared of Coach Pettine. By the time you're a junior, you get annoyed with him when he's jumping on you. By the time you're a senior, you start to get it. You begin to understand his overall objective, that coaching is teaching, and he's not here just to teach you about football. Unlike Potter, I only made one mistake when I played here at West on the practice field, and I stress, only one time. So Coach is coming over to me for some extra instruction. He was a little bit older these days, so I started leaning my face mask towards him just so he didn't put in the extra effort. And he smacked it away. And he said this to me. He goes, I'm not worried about winning championships or games. I'm going to do that. What keeps me up at night is what kind of man you're going to be when you leave this program. Now, that wasn't a Coach Pettine to Brian Buckley thing. This is what Coach Pettine worried about with all his players. He used football to teach all of us about the game of life. In the summer of 2012, I was in Afghanistan. My team was on a hostile mission against a very determined enemy. My team came under a surprise attack from Taliban forces. 2 of my teammates, along with myself, were immediately wounded. It was at this moment I took a deep breath and I thought, how would Coach handle this? I observed the enemy maneuvering on us, and I informed my higher command that my position was about to be overran. At that point, I began to direct fire, and we took the fight to the enemy. I witnessed how calm my team was. Everyone was doing their job and doing it exceptional. It was at that moment I realized we won this fight before it even started. Our training prior was paying off. Where did I learn to train like this? On a football field in Doylestown. Coach always stressed the attention to detail, the blocking and tackling, the brilliance in the basics. When I woke from surgery, I was informed that I could go home or I could stay. I chose the latter. I told Coach of this, and he wrote the following to me. You made my day knowing you're okay, but not totally. I wish you were getting the hell out of there with the other 2 guys. But the man upstairs threw the mold away when he made you, so it is no surprise that you went back into the game, to use a football analogy. What he didn't realize, or he was too proud to admit, that any one of his players would have done the same thing if put in my situation. He was the one who always stressed that the needs of the team far outweigh the needs of the individual, and that leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge. Coach Pettine saved my life that day, but more importantly, he saved the lives of the United States Marines. In the end, we all will have one testimony. Coach's is his family and his 1,000 sons of Doylestown. Look at what his boys have accomplished. Professional athletes, coaches, doctors, lawyers, military and government officials, business owners, and his most beloved and admired player went on to become a head coach in the National Football League. Coach is not a once-in-a-lifetime, he is a one-time only. When we face adversity, we will think of Coach. When we achieve our goals, we will thank him. He is the type of man that lives two lives, the life that he lived and the life that he continues to live through all of us today. It is now our duty and our honor to pass on his teachings of life that we all learned on a football field in Doylestown. All of us will be called home one day, and I'm sure when that day comes, we'll find Coach blowing his whistle at the Almighty, telling him how to more efficiently run heaven, and that his first step on the 31 trap is a 45-degree angle. To Linda, Sandy, and Mike, thank you for sharing your father. To Mrs. Pettine, thank you for the coach that you love. And Coach, I know one day when we see again, I am still going to dispute with you. You told me to go for the jugular against Newcastle at halftime. Now, to close, before every game, Coach would always have us circle up around him, and he would do a kick-ass chant. He would say, let's go, 1, 2, 3, kick-ass. So right now, I ask everyone to stand out of their seats. I'll count to 3. You guys say kick-ass. Remember, this one's for Coach, all right? So kick-ass on 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah! God bless you, and God bless Coach Mike Pettine. Thank you.
The bottom line, whether it's business or whether it's a football team or a lot of other endeavors, when you pay attention to detail, that's the difference between success or failure. Victory or defeat.
So what are you doing? Full speed out of control. The sweep. Who do you get? You just went and blocked the corner.
So we challenge our kids.
You better look in the mirror, young man. The talent you have and you're not producing.
You said it, pal. If you can't make the plays, I'll get Camburn in there.
Hey, you can't be a nice guy. Football is a tough game. The opponent wants to at times humiliate you, beat you up.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Mr. Loosey-goosey after the great game. Because your mind isn't on what you got to do.
Once you develop that physical and mental toughness, the game may be a step down from what these guys have been through the week.
That's why they drove down. Guys who are on the bench that should be in the damn game. I need a break. It's like a disease. Suck it up.
You can draw the conclusion that, hey, you're abusing these kids. And hey, maybe sometimes we've gone over the line, but I think if you take a look at all the players that have gone through our program and the feedback that we get, I think overall we've been on the right track.
No, I do. I miss that. I miss the clipboards on my head.
I don't do that anymore.
You're
I
duff.
used to, break clipboards.
You're a duff. What are you doing?
And that big sound effect. Didn't hurt him, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. It just cracked him. Then you yell at me for breaking the clipboard. There's no question one of my frustrations when I was up in the CFL is that I had better coaching in high school by far.